Spring break was supposed to be an escape. No parties, no chaos. Just me, my girlfriend Hannah, and our two friends, Jake and Emily, camping deep in the Appalachian woods. We picked a remote site, far from the main trails, where we wouldn't run into another soul. That was the plan, at least. The first night was perfect. Crisp air, a roaring fire, and a sky so full of stars it felt unreal. We drank a little, laughed a lot, and eventually, one by one, we drifted off into our tents. Then, around 3 a.m., I woke up. At first, I didn't know why. The fire had died down and everything was still. Too still. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate steps circling our campsite. I held my breath and strained to listen. There was no wind, no rustling leaves. Just the unmistakable sound of someone walking around us. I glanced over at Hannah. She was still asleep. I sat up and quietly unzipped the tent, peeking out. The dying embers of the fire barely lit the clearing, but I could make out a shadow standing just beyond the trees, watching us. My blood turned to ice. It wasn't Jake or Emily. They were zipped up in their own tent. Who the hell was that? I reached for the hunting knife I kept in my bag and whispered, "Hannah, wake up." She stirred, groggy. "What?" I didn't get a chance to answer. The footsteps started again. Faster this time, almost running. I bolted out of the tent, knife in hand, scanning the trees. Nothing, just darkness. Jake and Emily's tent zipped open. "What the hell was that?" Jake whispered, his voice shaking. "I don't know," I admitted. Then we saw it. Near the fire pit, where our backpacks had been, stood a man. At least, I think it was a man. He was tall, too tall, and unnaturally thin, wearing tattered clothes that barely clung to his skeletal frame. But his face, there was no face, just smooth, pale skin where his eyes and mouth should have been. Emily screamed. The thing's head twitched
at the sound, and then, without warning, it sprinted toward us on all fours. I grabbed Hannah's hand and ran. Jake and Emily were right behind us, crashing through the trees in a blind panic. My heart was slamming against my ribs, lungs burning. The campsite was too deep in the woods, too far from the car. We just had to run. Behind us, twigs snapped, leaves crunched. It was chasing us. Then, the worst sound imaginable. Emily shrieked. We turned, and she was gone. Jake stood frozen, eyes wild. "Emily? Emily!" He darted back toward the darkness, but Hannah and I grabbed him. "We have to go," I yelled. We didn't stop running until we burst onto the dirt road where our car was parked. I fumbled for the keys, yanked the door open, and we threw ourselves inside. I floored it, gravel kicking up behind us as we sped away. We called the police as soon as we got into town. A search team went out the next morning. They found our campsite. They didn't find Emily. The only thing they found was her backpack, sitting neatly in the center of the clearing. And next to it, pressed into the dirt, were two words written in blood: "Stay quiet."